Hello everyone and welcome back to the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. We are now starting the second match after Carlsen and Firouzja ended, with Carlsen winning 2.5, 1.5. We are now going to check out on Nakamura versus Giri. So this is game 1 of their match and already a very exciting game, so I do hope you'll enjoy it. So let's check it out. Nakamura with the white pieces opens with d4. We have knight to f6 by Giri, c4 g6 and knight to f3, bishop g7. The king's Indian defense is on the board. We have e3 and Giri castles here. We have bishop to e2 and now c5. We have d5 and d6, and we have now transposed into the Benoni defense. We have castles by Nakamura and e6, just a standard idea, challenging the d5 pawn in the Benoni. Knight to c3, and now a trade here. Captures, captures, and bishop to g4. As usually you don't know what to do with this light square bishop, so makes sense to develop it to g4, and even if h3, give it up here for the knight. So knight to d2 instead by Nakamura. This knight belongs on c4, where he will put more pressure on the d6 pawn. We have bishop captures, queen captures, and now knight to a6. And there is one game in the database where the immediate knight to c4 was played. But here we have rook to d1 by Nakamura, and it is as of move 12 that we have a completely new game. So Giri continues rook to e8 and knight to c4 now. We have knight to e4 by Giri, just challenging that knight, offering some trades and also opening up this bishop's diagonal. Knight captures, rook captures, and now a4. Now that the knight has been traded off, you no longer control the b5 square. You want to play that. You don't want to allow b5 to kick away your excellent knight on c4. And this is a beautiful knight here, since you not only attack the d6 pawn, but also guard the b2 pawn. So you are now free to develop your dark square bishop. So knight to c7. Usual idea, and now bishop to d2, switching the bishop over to c3 to challenge black's dark square bishop. So queen to d7, developing the queen, and now preparing to bring the rook into the game, and queen d3 now, trying to get the rook to move. You want to play some f3, e4 ideas in the future, and now you either defend it with this, or you shift it to h4, or you play f5, which is what Giri did. We have bishop to c3, and now rook to d8. Not rook to e8, as Giri wants to be able to move the queen, so this rook will be guarding the pawn, and also after f3, which is what Nakamura played, you have the e8 square free for your other rook. So rook e to e8, and now as there's some pressure on the d6 pawn, Nakamura decides to bring more pressure with bishop to e1. He's now shifting it over to g3 to go after the d6 pawn. So Giri says, all right, then I'm going to go after your e3 pawn. So queen to e7. We have bishop to g3 and now bishop to f6. Now planning to bring the bishop also to help out with the attack against the pawn. And you don't ever have the opportunity of capturing here, since you would have to give up two pieces for the rook, which is not something you want to do. So rook a to c1 by Nakamura, and now just b6. You cannot go a6 with idea of pushing b5. It's a standard Benoni idea, because white will just prevent it with a5, and you will never be able to play it due to a captures on b6 en passant. So here just b6. So maybe if the knight ever moves, maybe you will be able to play a6, b5. We have bishop back to e1. Nakamura sees that he needs to bring the bishop here to help out with the defense of the e3 pawn. So bishop g5 puts pressure on e3, and bishop to d2 now. And Giri returns, bishop to f6. And now Giri shown that this bishop does not belong on g3, because then Giri is free to attack the e3 pawn. So Nakamura needs to figure out a different plan if he wants to push for more than a draw here. He goes for b4. He starts his expansion on the queen side, and here was this was basically a critical moment in the game where Giri should have reacted differently. Here Giri needs to go for knight to a6, put pressure on the b4 pawn, and after this b5 move, which is pretty much a must, then go knight to b4. And here either the white queen moves and you win the d5 pawn, or bishop captures and then pawn captures. And yes, you've ruined up black's pawn structure here. but Black's dark square bishop will now, act unopposed for the rest of the game, which is pretty awesome, as there are a lot of dark squares for him to roam, and you can never go after this pawn. Whatever you do, just bishop to c3 defends it, and that's just it. So this would have been best. However, Giri played queen d7, attacked the a4 pawn, and now Nakamura closed the position. And now this is much different, having the knight here in this structure than having the knight here, obviously, as the knight on c7 will not really have anything to do. But okay, queen to f7, going after the e4 pawn, and bishop to e1, now just defending the d5 pawn twice. Queen back to e7, and now rook to b1. Now Nakamura is preparing a5, he wants his b5 pawn to be protected. So Giri strikes in the center. We have f4, but now e4. Nakamura wants to keep the center closed, as he wants to now attack on the queen side. Bishop to d4 with check, king to h1, and now rook to b8, as Giri of course is expecting a5, but now bishop to c3, now threatening to pick up the bishop and then win the pawn. So bishop captures, and now queen to f8. The rooks will now shift over to the queen side, and the queen will also help out with the defending. But now there's no more time to wait, it's time to strike. So a5. We have b captures on a5 by Giri, queen captures on a5, and now comes rook to b7, defending the a7 pawn. And now Nakamura took some time to think about the position, but in the end he decided to go for e5, which makes sense. You want to clear the d6 pawn to start pushing your own pawn forward. So if you don't capture it, if you don't react, then white is just free to capture on d6. So Giri captured, but now d6. And knight to a8 now. Knight to e6 is no better. So Giri decided for knight to a8. He wants to shift the knight over to b6. And now well, I'm not gonna tell you what Nakamura played, because pause the video here and try to find the best reply for white here while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the tactic Hikaru found almost instantly. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's knight captures on e5. Just defending the d7 pawn square twice now, and now you are ready to push d7. The problem with capturing the knight is that now d7, and there's no way for you to prevent this, because the rook cannot go back. You can't defend it through here, and even if you go back with the rook, then the d8 square will be defended twice by the queen and by the rook. And if you just block it with, let's say, queen to d8, well, then just queen captures queen. So there's that, obviously. After knight captures here, Giri played knight to b6, but now just d7. We have rook to d8 blocking now you can block as the knight is on b6, and now comes rook to d2. Here, just calmly preparing to bring the other rook into the game. Queen f5 attacks the knight and the pawn here, but now just rook to e1. And here, before deciding whether or not to capture on d7, first king to g7 by Giri, and now Nakamura just played queen to c3. And now with all these nasty discoveries here, there's really not much for black to do. So with best defense, you could try something like queen to f6, but then this just runs into queen captures on c5 now. And again, you just grab the pawn, and black is still without a move. Black's only try is knight captures here, but then you have queen to c6, and again black is without a move. If you capture the queen, then just pawn captures. You will have a double attack here on the rook and on the knight. And of course, if knight captures on e5, then you just pick up the rook with check, and after whatever queen blocks or king moves, you can just trade here, capture here, and after knight captures, rook e7 check, it doesn't really matter, and you will end this position being up the exchange with a completely winning position. So this is with the absolute best defense from black. However, Giri decided that there's no more point in playing this game, so instead he just played queen captures on d7, probably trying to end the game in a humorous tone. Hikaru captured on d7, and it was in this position that Anish Giri resigned the game. So that was game one of their match, and we're not going to be showing any other games since all three were very theoretical struggles, and all three of them ended in a draw. So basically Hikaru won his match against Giri. Well, just just a very nice win for Hikaru, as he did only have 1 point after that lost to Magnus in Armageddon. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. A very nice attacking game by Hikaru, very nice defending game by Giri, but Hikaru did find a way. He did give him a chance with that B4, Giri didn't take it, and then it was just all Hikaru from there. So yeah, I would like to thank Dominik Drmic, Juliana Galen, Brian Stube, David Chesluk, and Mr. R for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Magnus Invitational. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.